next. And good evening, Ed.
Yeah, Jimbo. Mr. Everly, nice talking to you. I'm a half black and half white man of 60 years of age.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, as two white guys talking to each other about how black people feel in America today, I asked the question, where is the black voice on your show? Where is the voice?
Well, first of all, we don't take a list of what callers happen to be. Second, this book was co-authored by a black man. Why, in fact, he wasn't on tonight, I don't know. Maybe Bruce Eberly knows. They were both invited on. But I don't know that I mean, anybody is free to call in, and we don't take note of just exactly what the ethnicity is of the people who call in. So,
where are the voices of Al Sharpton or William Barber or Charlemagne the God or, as you said, Van Jones? Where is the black voice right now represented? And I would ask any of my.
Well, what you mean on this program?
Yeah, so in your program
in this particular hour, they weren't invited on. That's.
I would like my black brothers and sisters to be able to call in right now on your show and voice their opinion.
Well, they are certainly welcome to do so. 1-866-50-JIMBO is the number, Ed. Just like you got through.
Here's another one.
Okay.
If I may say.
Go ahead.
All right. In the past 4 years, in my community alone, the record number of the stores that closed in my area where a lot of minorities would work is Macy's, Sears, Pier 1, Swiftway, Toys R Us, Save-A-Lot.
A lot of these stores are closing all across the country. They're not just closing in black neighborhoods.
And these are where a lot of African Americans and minorities would normally work at.
That may well be, but they're not just closing in black areas. They're closing everywhere, and it's not a racially oriented thing.
We find that there will be a lot of amounts, especially in urban areas, that these are the common places that a lot of African Americans and other races would work at too.
Whatever.
And we say there's so many jobs out there, but where are these jobs going? I mean, I don't see them.
All I can tell you is that the unemployment rate in the African American community is at the lowest rate since we started counting. I mean, that's got to count for something, and your anecdotal thoughts to the contrary, certainly there are jobs somewhere because the numbers wouldn't be so low. Harold in Charleston, West Virginia, good evening.
Hi, Jim. This is an ASA call, by the way.
For those who don't know, both Harold and I served in a group called the Army Security Agency, just so the whole country is now up to what you're talking about. Go ahead, Harold.
You know, I'm surprised and I wonder why that the black people who are in the U.S. House of Representatives don't take a look at what their people are accomplishing and encourage them to go about accomplishing. I live in the state of West Virginia, and the good times haven't hit us. I mean, we've got, but it's not what.
Well, I haven't checked the unemployment figures for West Virginia, so I can't directly address that. Of course, you wouldn't see a whole lot of support for the president coming from a group. You mentioned the African American representation on Capitol Hill, which is hugely Democrats, as they're not likely to support in this certainly this partisan age. They're not likely to support a Republican president. And I don't know, again, the unemployment figures for all of West Virginia. Anyway, stay on the line, if you would, Bruce Eberly, and we'll talk some more off-air. Again, Bruce Eberly with Vernon Robinson III, co-authors of the book Coming Home. This is Westwood One. Hello there, good evening. Welcome to the Jim Bohannon Show from Westwood One Radio. We're at 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626. Online, you'll find us at JimBohannonShow.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Jimbo Talks. So, Saturday is Caucus Day in Nevada, the third contest, and that's pretty much the way it's been now for the last dozen years. Iowa caucuses, New Hampshire primary, Nevada caucuses, South Carolina primary, and then a bunch that follow. And this year that includes, on Super Tuesday, over two-thirds of the votes needed to actually nominate the Democratic presidential nominee. That'll be on March the 3rd. So the Nevada caucuses has people there crossing their fingers that the process will do a little bit better, how could it not, than the Iowa caucuses. Jim Roop reports that while officials are confident that things will run smoothly, but there is a new twist which could add to the confusion.
William McCurdy, the chair of the Nevada Democratic Party, states it confidently.
What happened in Iowa will not be in Nevada?
What did happen? Well, a first-of-its-kind app was developed for precincts to report results. That broke down. But also people had problems even downloading it. Add to that a very large voter turnout, crash.
We put together a process.
That process in Nevada, an iPad with a caucus calculator, a customized set of Google forms the precinct captains fill out to help with the caucus math that will hopefully also easily add in the early voting numbers in the first-time 4-day early voting process, which itself is a little weird because that's not a caucus. That's a primary. A primary, you're alone in a voting booth. In a caucus, you're one in a discussion group. This is sort of a hybrid, I guess. The reason for the early voting process was to give folks who can't spend several hours on Saturday to caucus a chance to weigh in. They had to have made 3 choices and signed the ballot. And it's expected there are many, many incomplete ballots that will slow things down on Saturday. Democratic National Party Chair Tom Perez says he believes the early voting thing worked.
4 years ago, in 2016, 84,000 people came out to caucus. And in the 4 days of early voting, over 70,000 people voted.
Perez says that's a sign of energy that he believes will result in a much larger turnout than 4 years ago. Or it could mean that there will be far fewer people caucusing on Saturday because most got out early to vote so as not to have to give up a big portion of their weekend. This remains to be seen.
But it's really important to get it right.
That, too, remains to be seen. Jim Roop, Las Vegas.
Yeah, a lot remains to be seen, and we're going to find that out, certainly. But just following, of course, the process in Nevada, there aren't that many caucus states. I think all told there are 4, and this would be 2 of them already so far. So that's not the big issue. The big issue is who can help build some momentum or acquire some momentum. Just looking at the contenders, Bernie Sanders has vaulted into the lead nationally in the polls. He effectively tied with Pete Buttigieg in winning the Iowa caucuses, handily won the the primary in New Hampshire. Those are the 2 we've had to date. And now comes the third, in which some of the polls have shown Sanders with a pretty large lead, where Joe Biden once was the favorite. Biden seems to be among those slugging it out for a distant second place, and we'll see if the polls are proven correct in this regard. Biden still retains a lead, although a much slimmer lead, for a week from Saturday, the 29th of February, for the South Carolina primary. And then after that, of course, just 3 days later, Super Tuesday. 14 states, and you've got to have a lot of resources to effectively compete in those states. So, Bernie, he's got his fanatical core. He's got a lot of contributors. He's not going anywhere. And Sanders certainly is going to fight this out all the way to Milwaukee in July. There's no way that at this juncture you can see him not doing so. So that takes us to the other contenders. Joe Biden, 4th place in Iowa, bad. 5th place in New Hampshire, terrible. Biden needs strongly to finish at least in 2nd in Nevada and to win South Carolina. If he doesn't do those 2 things, states which in the past were thought to be icing on his cake, those are now his bedrock last fortresses, his Alamo for this campaign. If he doesn't survive those, then he doesn't even have to worry about Super Tuesday. Can he do it? Remains to be seen. These are more diverse states than Iowa or New Hampshire. Nevada with a large Hispanic vote. South Carolina, the Democratic primary is 60% African American. So we'll see if his claim that he's got the minority vote, in fact, pans out. There are certainly reasons to think that he may get it by default. Where else are they going to turn? To Michael Bloomberg, Michael Stop and Frisk Bloomberg? Are they going to turn to Amy Klobuchar with charges of racism from the time she was a prosecutor in the Minneapolis area? To Pete Buttigieg with charges that there was racism when he was mayor of South Bend, Indiana, to Elizabeth Warren, who so far has shown no great support from that community. You wonder where they will go. So Biden, at least if his theory holds true that he, in fact, can gain a minority vote, then he at least has a shot. Although Biden is strapped for cash. Super Tuesday, above all else, demands cash. Not only 14 states, but big states like California and Texas, expensive media states. Who's got the money? Well, of course, the billionaires do, Tom Steyer, and, of course, Michael Bloomberg, the elephant in the donkey field. And Bernie Sanders seems to have a pretty solid amount of cash, small donations, but he's got the money. Again, he's not going anywhere. If you can make a case for how Biden could become the comeback kid, it's hard to make a case for how Elizabeth Warren could be the comeback kid. At one time, she led the polls. And then third place in Iowa, not very impressive. And not very impressive either in New Hampshire, fourth place finish there. It's hard for me to see a path forward for her, honestly. 1-866-50-JIMBO is our number, 1-866-505-4626. So that takes us to Pete Buttigieg. And again, he did very well in the first campaign. That, of course, was in Iowa. And you could say statistically a dead heat, but they came out pretty much with a slight edge there. A solid second in New Hampshire. Then what happens in Nevada? The polls, again, don't indicate this is going to be very good territory for him, nor South Carolina for that matter. Amy Klobuchar. She did get a sudden surge in New Hampshire after a so-so finish in Iowa, where she was, of course, talking about Midwestern values, and from a neighboring state where Iowans have tended to support candidates from neighboring states like Bob Dole and Dick Gephardt. But they didn't do that for Amy. She got a surge in New Hampshire, and she got some extra donations. But is that going to translate into money that she can turn into an actual apparatus, an actual organization? Above all, modern elections require organizations, people on the ground, and they require money for media. And she doesn't have a whole lot of either one. So who's got a shot? Who is looking like they can do something? I have not mentioned, of course, Tom Steyer, because he has shown no traction anywhere except possibly in South Carolina. Somehow the billionaire mantle has not hurt Michael Bloomberg thus far, although he got savaged in that last debate. But it doesn't seem to be doing much for Tom Steyer. He's got a ton of money also, not as much as Bloomberg, but good heavens. Somebody's got to actually get this nomination. That's the weird part. 1-866-50-JIMBO, our number, 1-866-505-4626. Somebody's got to get the nomination. They can't leave Milwaukee without a nominee. Does somebody win by default? Does the least disliked candidate limp out of there? Pretty bizarre. All right, stay with us. More to come on the Bohannon Show as we are getting into the interesting part of this campaign. And by March the 4th, which is not that far away, we should have a fair idea of who the Democrats are going to nominate to run against Donald Trump. 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to the Jim Bohannon Show at 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626. Democrats are going to have to get their act together, and I'm not sure how they do it. I'm really not. Kim in Shields, Michigan is next up on the program. Good evening, Kim. Welcome.
Hi, Jim. I called about something else, but I'll sum up the Democrats in one word. They're all a bunch of weirdos, and I thought that from the very beginning. But that's not what I called about.
Okay, well, go ahead with what you called about.
Okay.